I'm now fitting the floor riser. So what I've done is I've marked and drilled two 10mm holes in the floor. They've come out under the van. What we'll do is we'll put some 10mm bolts in, and we'll also put some what we call keeper plates, so metal plates here to stop the seat base pulling through the floor of the van. I've placed the seat back in position. I've pushed the bolts through the holes at the back. I've then measured from the back of the bolts to where there's a cross member under the van. So what I've had to do is I've had to drill a bit further back, some large holes, and then drill a smaller 12mm hole in there. I've then marked, and I'll drill through there to make sure it doesn't come out on a cross member along the front. Before I fit the keeper plates, I've sprayed some etching primer where we've drilled through to stop any rust. I'm using this 5mm flat bar as a keeper plate, so I need to mark here and then drill through, and then we can bolt that on. Keeper plates are now bolted in position. After installing the seat base, I like to install the electrical system. I install the battery and the heater under the seat, the inverter behind the seat, and the fuse box, and then we've got a DC to DC converter. So if the seat's bolted in position, it's all in the way, so it's easy to get on, install that, and then we can bolt the seat in. So a quick overview of the electrical system. We've got a connection to the main van battery that goes to this Renogy DC to DC converter. It also accepts a solar input. We've got an isolator switch from the incoming power. We've also got an isolator switch to the outgoing power to the fuse box, and we've got an isolator switch for the solar power. We've then got a Fogstar 460 amp hour battery that drops in nicely behind here. I've got a 3000 watt inverter, Renogy inverter mounted on the wall there. Then got inline fuses, we've got some bus bars and the fuse box. And then here we've got a JP heater, which is a Truma copy, which provides hot air heating and hot water as well, so it's got a 10 litre hot water tank in there. The DC to DC converter slides nicely under the driver's seat, and then I put a cover over here to hide it out of the way. I've removed all the plastics from round the back sides of the seat. I now need to chop out these cross pieces so they're not in the way of the heater, because the hot water tank would bash into those. And then we need to convert this seat base here for an additional seat belt. So this is originally from the front of a Crafter, where the seat belt is bolted onto the B pillar. We don't have that in the back of the van, so what we do is we convert this seat belt to accept another seat belt in there. So we need to strip off the cover and bolt all that in. I just purchased a 3-point seat belt from eBay to convert this seat. The water tank is glued down with Sikaflex straight to the floor. It's a 110 litre water tank from CAC Tanks. The bed system's ready to be installed. What I'll do is I'll lift it into position, and then along here I've got riv nuts. I've screwed M6 bolts that are sharpened, and then I push the bed in position. It marks the back of the bed where I'll then be drilling through and then fitting bolts in to bolt it in position. I then also screw along the front and side edges into the floor to hold it down. I may need to put wood packing down the back to pull it this way a bit, so I'm build it a bit thinner than needed, so if anyone creates thicker side panelling, it allows for that. Behind the water tank, fitted a 30 psi sure flow water pump and accumulator, mounted it on a board, attached it to the wall. Then we've got overflow, got water up to the sure flow pump, and we've got water inlet to fill the tank up. This is how I fill the water tank. So underneath the van you've got a hose point, and you've also got a breather pipe as well with these valves. So attach a hose pipe on here and then turn it on and then open the valve, and that'll fill the tank. Or what I can do is I can attach a battery powered jet wash onto here, open the valve, and that'll allow you to use a jet wash to wash bikes or wash the van. I'm using a piece of 18mm ply to pack it out at the back, and I'm using M6 by 60mm bolts to bolt it to the wall, and then I'll screw around the edge where possible as well, just to hold it firm in position. It's now held solid. If the floor height matches, then the bed should fit around this bracket here. That's why the floor needs to be to the same specification as this van to allow the bed to fit properly. Where the door stays go into the side of the van, you have to cut a hole in to allow it to go into the inside of the van. Then on the inside I've fitted these 3D printed covers, so when you close the door it doesn't catch the upholstery on the inside. When the bed sides are in the correct place, you should have about a 5mm gap. So if you push one of the boards over to the right, then that gap should then be parallel all the way along. If it's not, you'll need to bring it out or bring it in at equally either side until you get a nice parallel fitment to the sides of the bed. When the bed platforms are correctly fitted, there should be no movement side to side. So to achieve that, you may need to loosen these off. Don't undo them fully, just loosen them off and slide that way. Take it out of the van, lie it flat on the floor to do this, measure the distance and then adjust accordingly. So for transportation, you need to ensure that the platform's bolted in position, and you've also got a strap on either end of each platform. So there should be a strap across here, bolted under there, and same at this side. The bed frame's now fully bolted in, and the upper platforms are strapped in place and bolted in place. These are nice and lined up now. I've screwed the shower door on. The seat's bolted in place, and now what I've done is constructed this step, and I've glued the same liner onto the front. I've used these little blocks to attach it. It's nice and secure. And then I've cut a piece of wood that's just going to slide over the top and screw in position. The step is now screwed down. I've edged the front of this with some T-trim. I've got to screw on the back of the seat base cover and cut some aluminium to box that in. When I fit the shower, I cut the aluminium and shower cubicle slightly shorter than it needs to be. So I push it in place and then lift it up, and that's to stop the ceiling getting damaged. And then afterwards you just put sealant round the edge to neaten it off. The table's now fitted. I've installed some joint connectors into the riv nuts, mounted this plate on the wall, attached the table rail. I've also attached the seat base surround. Time to install the locker above the kitchen pod. I'm currently fitting the trim above the sliding door. So what I do is I fabricate some little brackets and utilise the bolts that hold the sliding door on, and put the brackets under those bolts and tighten them up, and that holds it on fairly tight. And I do the same with above the kitchen locker as well. So, and then some aluminium profile goes on here, and that just finishes it off nicely. I've also utilised the courtesy light wiring and wired that into an LED light strip, so when I open the door it illuminates the step area. To fit the locker above the kitchen pod, I propped it up again and then made sure it was straight, and then put screws up here, secure it at the top, and then same as the above the door, the sliding door there, so I fabricate these little brackets and screwed it in, and now it's nice and secure. Ready for the kitchen pod to go in. After cutting down the B-pillar trims, you've got this little hole left, so get some insulation, wrap it around some carpet and just place it in there, and that finishes it off. I've lifted the kitchen pod into position and connected the water, tested the water before bolting it and screwing it down. Under here we've got the waste pipe coming and dropping down through the floor here in this corner. Inside, what we need to do is bolt the pod to the wall under here and drill it into the floor as well. So you need to stop it rocking sideways and forwards and backwards. And then what I'm doing is I'm connecting a socket up on here to use a kettle on top, and some switches to turn on and off the water pump. Now I've got running water. The pod's now fully installed with this trim underneath going onto the step to give it some extra support, and we've installed this side flip down table here. Fridge is wired in and switched on. To finish off around the step, I've used this aluminium stair nosing, which is available from eBay. I've fitted it to the side door and at the back of the van as well. You can utilise two of the lower bed platforms to make a table. So you get a small platform, add a Sequoia table leg in between, and that allows you to use a table inside or outside the van. Van conversion's now complete. We're set up trading at Van Life Fest. So it's taken 12 days of effort from a panel van to complete the van. We're now using it. We do have bits to finish off, but it is actually a usable van.